My name is Marvin Vastbinder, and I'm helping Brandon Bauer coordinate the mentorship program with the Lighthouse Ministry in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I'm going to be just stepping you through this presentation so you can pick up this education at your own pace and on your own schedule. I wrote this presentation, I don't know, a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, after I'd been involved in mentoring for a couple years. And it was, the whole idea was what I wish I had known before I started. And so I hope this is helpful for you. I'd love to get your feedback. Everybody's experience is different. And so I just hope you can get some things out of here. And I think Brandon, because he was kind enough to edit it for the Lighthouse program. So I'm just going to step through these slides. This is slide 1. We're going to switch to slide 2. Mentorship is a lifelong endeavor, and it's something that is important that we do totally apart from this, that we have input from other people. We need people who can see things differently than we do. Life is a team sport, and so we get to participate in that as part of this mentorship program, but we should also participate in it outside, and it gives us that example in Titus 2. Switching to slide 3. Reasons not to be a mentor. I know I've talked to different people, and several people that I know have been involved have got burnout, and I think a lot of it has to do with the reasons they do it. And the reasons not to be a mentor is if you want to see success by changing people's lives, or if you want to be involved in a unique ministry. These are just not good reasons to be a mentor. You're going to kind of ride a roller coaster and get frustrated and get burned out. And so we'll talk about reasons to be a mentor. And switching to slide 4, the main reason is God's leading you and you want to be obedient. This is a tough job. It's a tough ministry to be involved in, but it's a very rewarding ministry because I know when I started, I did start and say I wanted to see lives changed, and yet what happened was the only life that I knew for sure that was changed was mine. And it's caused me to be more dependent on God. It's caused me to be more humble. And it's just been very rewarding. And so I put a couple of these Bible verses in there that you can see in front of you. Switching to slide 5. Reasons to be a mentor. It's about people. It's about lives. It's about eternal lives. And so I don't know if you recognize any of these gentlemen in the picture, but where will they spend eternity, and how will they live here on earth? And you can make a difference. You may not see the difference that you make, but you definitely will make a difference, and it's just a great opportunity to serve in this way. Switching to slide 6, and we all want to stand before God at the end of our end of time and have him say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And so if he's calling you to do this, then by all means commit yourself to it, and he will help you through it, and it'll be rewarding, especially at the end. Slide 7. I've got 5 slides that talk about prayer just with an emphasis, and I do this just over duplication, over emphasis, but there's just so many things to pray about, and that's the key. If you don't do anything else as a mentor, the main focus should be prayer. And none of us are smart enough, none of us are wise enough, none of us are strong enough. And pray for wisdom and courage and perseverance for yourself, and continue to pray that you won't get discouraged, that God will continue to give you strength. Switching to slide 8, pray to be faithful and obedient and not to focus on success. And just to continue to ask God to help you to be faithful and to do what you need to do no matter what happens. Slide 9. And pray for the resident mentees, the people that we're working with. Pray for strength, growth, courage to overcome challenges. Pray for them as they deal with their addiction and anything else you know personally. Just pray for their spiritual growth. Pray for their salvation. And just pray to love them and to be able to serve them. Switching to slide 10. Pray for the other mentors. And we need each other. We need to pray for each other. We need to encourage each other. And so continue to do that. And then switching to slide 11, pray for Brandon and the team. Pray for me. And just pray and depend on God. And again, I think you get the point here, and it will be emphasized through the rest of this also. Switching to slide 12, seek God's guidance before, after, and during, always. And so I'll just kind of go through these points. We aren't smart enough to do this on our own, to know what to say or to do. When I get ready to meet with someone, I spend time in prayer and just ask God to give me wisdom. Help me to be sensitive to His Spirit. Help me to love. Give me grace, and just help me to follow Him. And that it is a spiritual battle. This is a brutal battle. Addiction is just brutal, and it's just a strong spiritual battle, and we need to realize that, and to pray, seek God's guidance and help. And then I like Proverbs 3:5-7, and I know you're familiar with that, so you can see it on the screen. Switching to slide 13, what to pray for, that you will continue to grow in your relationship with Jesus. If we don't have our strong relationship with Jesus, we can't give anything else out. Nothing else matters. And so we need to continue to grow in our relationship by reading the Word, and by regular prayer, and hanging out with other people who hold us accountable, and just to continue to grow in our love and knowledge of Jesus Christ. And so that's the most important base that we have here. And then for wisdom to know what to say and to do, and for Jesus to work in the life of those you're mentoring, and that it's just depending always through this process. Switching to slide 14. These are kind of the characteristics that I look for in a mentor. And so you can kind of read through this, and if we maybe jump to 9, if you get intimidated by these at all, not perfect or have it all together, but humbly growing. And so to realize the importance of each one of these, and we just need to be solid men of God, but humble, and we struggle, and but we need to be models of both our relationship with God and how we handle struggles and situations. So you can kind of read through this list. Going to slide 15. You're part of a bigger picture, and Brandon's got a great program, and the process is to help people move to a life of discipleship, and in serving Jesus Christ, and dealing with their addiction. And so we're an important part of that, and it's just important to understand that we're part of this bigger picture, and it's a privilege to be a part of it. Slide 16. Just remember, only God can change hearts, and it's His way and His timing. And so we can't make people do things that we want to do. We can't convince them very often, and so we need to just trust God, and again be faithful and obedient, and trust Him in His way and His timing. On to 17. Time together equals influence, and so the time you get to spend with these gentlemen is important, and just realize the value of it. And so just go out of your way to try to meet with them regularly, and if there's other times to support them in their life, take advantage of that. But the time you spend together is the key. Going to 18, just kind of setting your expectations. I'll just kind of go through those. Don't be surprised at lack of progress or success. It's not always a straight path. It's a journey, and you're part of that. Don't be surprised when they say they'll do something and they don't, and it's a kind of a challenge. It's easier to talk than to actually do things, and so that's just part of their growth. Don't be surprised when they make bad decisions. And again, it's a journey, and we want to help them move forward. But if people make mistakes, and they learn from them, and it's an opportunity to learn and to grow, and to show grace from God, and to remind them that God is very gracious to us. And some of those bad decisions may lead to jail or prison. And so it's a journey, and don't ever give up on people. And then don't let any of the above cause you to lose or abandon hope. And we just need to remain hopeful. We need to realize that we can't be responsible for people's decisions, but we can just be faithful and obedient, and realize God's in charge, and that it is a journey. It's not, this isn't the end, no matter what happens. And so switching to slide 19. So just, I look for people and am encouraged, especially if you can find somebody who wants to change and you can come alongside them. And sometimes we have to encourage them to want to change. But it's a blessing when you see areas where they want to change, and you can come alongside them to do that. Slide 20. There's a gentleman named John Leonardson. He runs a ministry in Texas called Mentor Care Ministries, and I talked to him, and he said the two characteristics he looks at people, for in people that tend towards success is gratitude, and when they'll listen to new ideas. And those are the two things. And if you see that missing, where they're blaming other people and blaming other situations on their situation, not taking responsibility, and when they think they've got it, it's just a little bit more challenging, and an opportunity to pray more and to look for opportunities to help lead and guide them more toward an attitude of gratitude and a humble listening to new ideas and accepting that. On to 21. People will lie to you, and in the criminal part and the addiction part, there's a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of lying to themselves and kind of honing the trade of lying to others to get what they wanted. And so they can be very, very convincing, and they're very good at it. I've just been surprised that I'll ask questions, and there won't be even any hesitation. A lot of times in life, I ask questions, and I just wait for people to hesitate. But a lot of addicts, they don't even hesitate, and they'll just lie so quickly. And not everyone, but it does happen. And so it's just good to realize that they can be very, very convincing. They have put stories together, orchestrated, and then they will adjust things personally based on your replies and who you are. And so focus on actions and not talk, but give them a chance. A lot of times if I can't tell what's truth, eventually truth will come out. And so rather than calling them out on something, I'll just kind of let it play out, and without enabling. And then a lot of times you can run situations by other mentors, people who are more experienced. Sometimes it's just good to talk about it, and eventually the truth will come out. Switching to 22, the bottom, it says beginning advice from Judge Surbeck, and he is a judge that's very experienced, been there a long time. He was in reentry court when I started, and I asked him, if you have advice for me as I'm starting out here, what's the advice you have? And he said, don't get taken advantage of. And so they can be very manipulative and very, very good. And it's kind of interesting to see. When you feel pressure and guilt, you can be pretty sure you're being manipulated. If you feel pressure and guilty, I had a gentleman who I became good friends with that came from this background and was very good. And he said, I look for people where they're vulnerable. I look and try to understand and see what kind of makes them tick. And so if you get in situations, talk to Lighthouse staff or another mentor for perspective, and don't move forward alone. And slow down. I just had so many situations where I've been involved in where it's this whole story that comes together. We got to decide right now because of this deadline, and those deadlines just aren't there. If you just need to slow down and wait and get some help and get some more information, and that's the best way to work through that. Going on to slide 23. Personal example, there was a gentleman who just recently got out of prison. His mom died before he went to prison. You can kind of read this stuff, but he put this whole story together, and it was just amazing to watch him do this. and all of these things that he needed to the U-Haul, and people coming from out of town and people taking stuff, so he had to do it tonight, and family coming in from out of town and needing $70 for the U-Haul and $10 for cigarettes, and the bank's closed, so he wanted to write me a check and wanted $80 in cash, and then he said, I look forward to coming back to the meeting on Monday, just to kind of suck me in even more. Going on to slide 24. And so I wanted to help him. He was believable, but I was suspicious, but I wasn't sure, and it just seemed so. I was going to kind of let it pay out, and so I told him I'd meet him at the U-Haul place, because it's better to pay directly than to give them cash. And so he said fine, and then at the last minute he changed the meeting and said, oh yeah, we're meeting here because my friend that has the credit card is right here and wants to meet here. Can you meet us here? And so I asked about the credit card, and he said his friend was providing it. And so anyway, I did pay him the $80 against my better judgment, and so it's a $80 education. And so but anyway, he even asked me if he could meet me the next day to pay me. And so I haven't heard from him since. And he did respond once, but nothing after that. So the story's not over. It was an $80 education, and I hope you don't have to pay the same thing, but it's just not a good idea to give money. And that's not what we're in the business for. So switching to slide 25. Don't work harder than they do. So look for signs that they really want to do the right thing. Be concerned when you get excuses that they can't do things. And but they do have limited resources. When you come out of jail, or you've blown it all from past addiction, you don't have resources, and you can use help as you're getting back on your feet, and you can help them kind of work through some of the things that's a challenge. And so you have to use your best judgment in there. I'm talking mostly transportation and maybe doing some research for them as opposed to giving them money, and spending time together, as far as giving them rides if they're not just using it as a taxi service when they could do it themselves. But the buses are challenging, and sometimes if they're trying to get started in a job, the transportation is an issue. So use your judgment, talk to other people, but don't work harder than they do in regard to this. Slide 26, opposite sex mentor issues. I don't think we're going to have that, but just be very careful. And so don't do this without your spouse by your side. I sometimes get involved with women in relationships at the court to try to help them out, but my wife has been great to help me out. Sometimes we take them out to dinner together, but just be very, very, very careful. Don't take anything for granted. Don't make any assumptions. Just be very careful. Switch into slide 27. Be honest. And ex-offenders and addicts have trouble trusting anyone, and they're just used to not, because everyone that they see has an angle, and they expect you to have an angle, and they're just trying to figure you out. And so any attempt at not being honest for whatever reason will have the possibility of ruining the relationship. They're trying to read you. They're trying to figure out who you are, and so just be yourself and relax. And so if there's something that they ask or whatever that you can't share, let them know that you can't. Just be honest. Say, I can't share that with you, or but always be honest with them, and truth builds trust. Switching to slide 28, giving money. The main rule is don't. And I know I've felt this many, many times where stories come together and it just makes complete sense. And often we have more money than we need, and wouldn't take much for us to just give the money to them. And a lot of times convincing stories are put in place, and a lot of times there's real needs. And I'm not saying that they don't need it, but if you give money, it will change the relationship. And if you loan money, it ruins the relationship, because people who need money to be loaned money usually have trouble managing money. And if they have trouble managing it and need to be loaned money, then they have a lot of trouble paying it back, and they will avoid you. And a lot of times you loan money, and you can even giving groceries and other things, and I don't have as much of a problem with that, and taking them out to eat and things like that. But sometimes buying them things helps free up money for drugs. And so anyway, this is kind of an extreme case, but it's just better to not give money. And there are most of the mentees have not had training or discipline managing money. A lot of times they don't have the foresight to say, I need to put money back for emergencies. And so when emergencies come up, they get into panic mode. And so just ask for help, talk to somebody else, the Lighthouse staff, for perspective. And the mentorship guidelines for the Lighthouse say do not give money. And so please don't. Just a few other things. We focus on mentoring. We focus on providing time and sharing our lives. And there's other organizations that focus on meeting physical needs, and they're a lot better at it, at determining needs. And so we're not good at it, and so we shouldn't do that. If you do loan somebody something, for whatever reason, if you loan them something, consider it a gift, because you may not get it back. So, and I think we've pretty much, the other thing I've seen is you get people getting in a desperate situation, and it just seems like that you're their only hope. But if you wait and don't give money, there's always another way. And again, ask for help and perspective before you do anything. So, switching on to slide 20 or 30. And sometimes you get tired of this. It's tough ministry. When you see somebody relapse, and when you see people do really well and then make mistakes, it's disappointing, and you can get tired and frustrated, and it's just a brutal ministry sometimes, emotionally. And so we have to continue to trust and depend on God. I remind myself regularly, why am I doing this? I do it for God. I do it because He wants me to do it. I do it because He allows me to do it. I do it to continue to learn to trust and to love God. And so there's a book called Tattoos on the Heart, and one of the phrases in there that they use is, let unconquerable gladness dwell. And so it's not what happens to us, it's how we react to it. And I just always know it's not the end of the story. And I'm just going to be faithful and obedient. And the Bible gives us strong words. Galatians 6:9, let us not be weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And so it's about being faithful and obedient, and it's not being about success and how things go. And talk to somebody else. Just share. Life is a team sport, and we need to help each other. And then in the beginning of James, it's count it all joy when you face trials, and so there is blessings in that, to be able to be dependent on God, and just pray for strength and wisdom and perspective. Switching to slide 31, love. It's the key too, and so we know that God tells us to love our neighbor, and we know that everyone is our neighbor, and so we have an opportunity to show God's love, and truly love, and it's a command. And so sometimes it's not easy. A lot of times, the most difficult people to love are the ones who need it the most. And if we do actions, if we don't let our emotions rule us, that if we pray for people, if we do loving actions to them, love will follow. And God set it up that way, and He allows us to overcome this by working through this process of maybe people that bother us, that we can still love, and because He commands us to. Slide 32. Just be the person who truly cares. I know several people have just told me, he said, no one's ever cared about me like you. And a lot of people have grown up in tough family situations, and so you can demonstrate the love of Jesus by caring and being consistent. Slide 33, grace, and just I love the Colossians 3:13. Forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. And so if you get frustrated, if you whatever, just remember how many times we've failed God and how faithful He's been to just run to us when we repent. And Micah 7:18, where He delights to show mercy. And God loves us so much, and we need to follow the way He does things as far as delighting to show mercy. God is so gracious, and He's been gracious with us. We should be gracious with others. So if you lose your patience, if you get frustrated, just kind of look at yourself and just thank God for how gracious He's been to you, and provide that grace to someone else. 34. Be positive, and it's easy to be negative sometimes, but look for positive things in their lives. Look for improvements or better approaches, and rejoice in those and celebrate that. Encourage them, and just be positive and avoid the negative and criticism. And sometimes they get frustrated, but provide a different perspective, more of a positive perspective. And if you have some advice for them, constructive advice, make sure that there's a lot more positive affirmation than just giving them advice. Slide 35. Sometimes you can be helpful to provide perspectives that they don't have. It's easy to get locked into a certain, this is how it is, and there's no other way. And so some of it, and you just have to be careful depending on how frustrated they are. But one of the things is taking responsibility for the current situation, even if it's unfair. And I know a lot of times because of past decisions, then it leads to consequences that may not be fair. But part of being in that situation at the present time relates to bad decisions that were made in the past. And so just providing that perspective, not rubbing their nose in it, but looking for opportunities to provide that, and just the opportunity to always be grateful, and to remind them of what blessings they have, and the value of a positive attitude. A lot of times it's authority issues, and again, you have to be careful when, depending on how angry or upset they are, but if you look for opportunities to talk about accepting authority even when they disagree, and giving perspectives. I talk about what a challenging job it would be to be a probation officer or a case manager, and have them see things from other people's view, and encourage them to grow a network of positive relationships, and just to keep doing that, to keep looking for positive people to have relationships in their lives, and be intentional about that. Slide 36, more perspectives. Money management, put money aside for emergencies, and when they're in a money hole and they're struggling and they need money right now and they don't have it, that's not a good time to talk about money management. But sometime when you can, talk about money management. And Brandon does a seminar periodically, and that's helpful also. Discipline. I like the quote. It's actually from Tom Landry, Dallas Cowboys coach. It says, "I make men do things they don't want to do so they can become who they want to become," and get them to invest today, where it's not that much fun, but it pays back tomorrow. We talk about playing the cards they've been dealt, and life isn't fair all the time, and with their parent situation and physical and other things, it may not be ideal, but they have an opportunity to make the best of what they have. And then I see this a lot as far as thinking through a situation versus reacting emotionally. And a lot of times emotional reactions just cause a lot of problems, and just get them in trouble, and being angry and quick to act. And so thinking through and just kind of stepping back. And then something I see a lot of is the difficulty of handling difficult situations. When there's unfairness, when there's death of a loved one, when they lose a job, when just bad things happen, it's painful. And a lot of times they can turn back to drugs. And what we want to encourage them to do is to handle that in a healthy way, and to be able to work through it. Slide 37. I put this together, and I'll put it on the website. You can say, hey, you need to change your life and do all these amazing things, but people can't. It's a process, and it's more important to make little changes. And so I have a list of little things that they can do and that you can work with them to do. is to even read one book, or to work on a relationship, or maybe pick up a new skill, do some research about a career, just little things to move the needle forward, because changes are huge if you just start making little changes as a part of your habit. And so again, I'll put this on the website that you'll have available, what I wanted to mention it. Slide 38, listen. And so listen more than talk. And that's kind of the net of it. Ask them open-ended questions versus yes-no questions. Just talk through situations with them, explore alternatives, ask them about some consequences and perspectives and how other people look at things, and just kind of probe and just get them to think deeper, and but listen to them and affirm and summarize what you hear, and just use listening skills a lot instead of talking and giving advice too much. Slide 39, be flexible. There's just a lot of flexibility with this. You are not going to be in control. There's going to be changes, and things are going to come up, and you just need to roll with it and just continue to trust God and to pray, and He will help you through the process. But just don't expect things to go the way you want them to go all the time, and just again be flexible and try to read and trust God. I'll switch into 40. Ask a lot of questions versus giving advice. Has to do with listening, and just help them to think through things. And so you can see things here as far as just they would like to people like to talk, people like to be heard, and so asking questions, and this will help you understand. I've learned a lot about drug addiction. I wasn't a drug addict or an alcoholic, but I've learned a lot by asking questions, and people like to explain things about their life, and they like to help educate you. They want you to be educated. They want you to be knowledgeable. So take advantage of that. Slide 41. Addiction is a monster. It's unlike, for those of us who haven't been addicts, there's nothing like it that we can really understand. And so it's good to continue a process of understanding and gathering more information. And so there's some resources that have available on the website that will provide, and that you can take advantage of, but continue to learn about it, and know that you can't be the expert on addiction for them. And so we want to depend on other experts. You can be supportive and loving, and you need to be knowledgeable, but know that that you need more help from an addiction standpoint than anybody just depending on you. And Brandon's a great resource for assistance with that. But don't underestimate the power of addiction, and I think confidence and pride is probably the worst enemy of addiction, or the worst thing to have in regard to addiction, because it will take you right back. And so just there needs to be a humbleness and never underestimating the power of addiction, even after a long term. I don't think Brandon will mind me saying this, but he was talking about having challenges with alcohol in his past, and he went to a church where they served alcohol at communion, and he was surprised even after 15 years of the power of alcohol right there in that service as far as distracting him. And it literally changes your brain. It just has an incredible power, and so just anyway, learn more about it, and don't underestimate it. Slide 42. I put together this Pathways to Change, and it's another document that I'll make available as far as just as far as people changing in actions that I call actions that lead to progress. And so you can read through these, but the things that people need to do to move forward, things that are helpful. And so we'll go to slide 43 is more actions, and so you can read through these. You'll have this document in the website available, and so just these are things that you can talk about and encourage in certain areas, and just see how they're doing in these. Kind of work through them with them and talk about the importance of them. So going on to slide 44. As we continue to grow, and Brandon has some great ideas of as far as expanding the mentorship program outside of the current house to more of the public and including women, we're going to need more mentors. And so because of your experience with this and knowing what's involved, you have a great opportunity to look for people that might qualify, that might be interested, and it's just always good to give them an opportunity. We have a mentorship brochure for potential mentors that you can hand out, and we'll make those available to you. And so just keep your eyes open, ask for God's help, seek God's guidance, and then you can talk to myself or Brandon if someone's interested. There's an application to fill out. And so we just need your help, and God will use you and other people to bring the people we need, and we look forward to that. On to slide 45. I put it near the end, but it's absolutely the key is sharing the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ. People can beat their addiction. They can develop new perspectives and thinking processes and be very successful in our society. They can even be presidents of companies, run their own businesses. But if they don't know Jesus Christ and aren't in a position to surrender their lives to Him and to serve Him wholeheartedly and then spend eternity with Him, it won't matter. And so we need to keep that in mind. We don't want to twist people's arms. We don't want to force things on people, but we want to love them and love them enough to share the gospel with them. It's difficult sometimes to share the gospel, and sometimes we're uncomfortable, and it can be awkward. But I would encourage you to practice to pray, to spend time studying how you would present the gospel in the best way, and just share the good news. You don't have to try to get them to pray a prayer. You don't have to twist their arms. You don't have to argue with them. But make sure that they understand that we're all sinners, and being sinners has consequences and punishment. And we all deserve eternal death. And yet there's this great news as far as Jesus coming to earth and dying for our sins, dying in our place, taking the penalty that we deserved, and that we didn't do anything to deserve it or earn it, and we don't do anything to deserve or earn it, but to share this good news with them, and that His Spirit will come and live inside us, and we can begin this relationship now and through eternity. And so there's just lots of ways to approach it. I put that question in there. If you were to die and stand before God and ask, why should I let you into heaven? What would you say? And this is a good way to talk about works versus grace. And so just have discussions. You don't have to have it all in one time, but just continue to look for opportunities to share the good news with people. On 46, continue to get educated. So there's going to be education documents, and there's a YouTube video that Brandon has to help understand addiction. There's this training material, which you're obviously going through. There's other things to read. And so I put the website down there, renewingtogether.org/lighthouse, for helpful resources. Just remain humble and teachable, and continue to adjust and to learn. And so there's just great opportunities to grow through this process and depend on God. On to 47. Brandon has a program on Tuesday nights at Burger King downtown, where it's related to life skills, and it's an outreach opportunity. And if you have Tuesday nights free, it would be great to attend with him and to provide ministry support, and to build new relationships, to reach out to people who have hurting and have needs. and just to be sensitive to God, and you can build relationships. So I would encourage you to consider that on Tuesday nights. If you need more information, you can talk to myself or Brandon on the 48. In summary, and I hope this has been helpful. But to just summarize, to make some main points is the key is praying. We're not smart enough. We're not wise enough. We can't change lives, but we can depend on God to help us, and we have to depend on God. And we just need to constantly seek wisdom and when He will provide that. And then if there's challenging times, or not if there's challenging times, when there's challenging times, just focus on why we do this. What's our motivation? And it's just to be faithful and obedient. And that's the key, and to depend on God. And so no matter what happens, we can just focus on seeking Him to do our best with the skills and capabilities and the power that He's given us. And then love people, just grow in love, and that'll be key. Listen, ask a lot of questions, learn, be compassionate, show grace, and God's grace, and forgiveness, and just know that no one's perfect, and there will be mistakes made, and so we can show grace and continue, and then learn and grow, and just continue to learn and to continue to grow and be humble. And then the gospel is the key. We need to share the good news, and we need to share it regularly. But again, just be sensitive to God's Spirit, and but just make sure that they know the good news, because it makes such a difference here, both here and in eternity. And so just make sure that you practice, study, and there's a document that I'll put in the resources that may be able to help you. And get help from others. Don't do this alone. Life's a team sport. When you have questions, when you have issues, when you're frustrated, whatever, reach out to myself, to Brandon, to other mentors, but get help. Learn about addiction. It's complicated, it's challenging, it's not intuitively obvious, but it's important. The better understanding that we have, the better we can assist in the process. And so make that a conscious thing to do. And this is a journey for all of us. And we'll have ups and downs. There'll be frustrations. There'll be challenges. There'll be things that we think are critical and that will change the whole course of the relationship. And maybe that's true, maybe not. But it is a journey. It's a long-term journey. And so you have the opportunity to just be faithful and obedient and never give up. And lastly, is to be grateful. Just always think of the things that we have as far as blessings from God, and how blessed we are no matter what situation happens, and convey that, and just trust God and continue to trust God. And it's just a great opportunity for you to do that, and just to have that attitude, and to show that attitude to others. I'd just like to close this part in prayer, and so if you wouldn't mind praying with me. Holy God, thanks for your greatness and your wisdom. Thanks for your grace to us through Jesus Christ. Thanks for your plan of salvation that we so greatly benefit from. Help us to share this good news with others. Thanks for the opportunity to serve you. Thanks for your help through your word, your spirit, and other people. Thanks for never giving up on us. Thanks for giving us strength and endurance when we face hard situations that we don't understand. Thanks that we can trust you no matter what. Thanks for the mentors who are listening to this training. Thanks for working in their lives to allow them to serve you. Help them to always realize why they are working with these men and women. Help us to realize that we aren't smart enough or strong enough, and that we need to always depend on you. Continue to teach us about the struggles of addiction and the spiritual battles that go on. Give us wisdom and strength that can only come from you. We are thankful for your blessings and your faithfulness. Amen. Going on to slide 49. If you have questions, comments, issues, suggestions, whatever, please contact me. Reach out to Brandon. Reach out to other people. My contact information is here. But I'll just encourage you, just don't do this alone. And it'll just help you through the process. I appreciate your time and listening. Appreciate your service. It's truly a pleasure that you're a part of this, and an honor and an encouragement. Blessings.